Welcome to Real Estate of Mind, a Farming Group podcast. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate of Mind. I'm Andy Gutman, and I'm here today with Paul Debono, Vice President of the Farming Group. Paul, we used to call you the Mayor of Corktown. We now refer to you as the King of all Detroit. You are the man who we go to with all of our questions on the city. We have a team that surrounds our Detroit real estate and really is in the trenches every day. But you've been down there. You've been with us now 16 years coming up in a few weeks, and have been really ingrained in the city for decades. And so I want to welcome you to the show, and today we're going to talk about the city of Detroit.
Well, thanks, Andy. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the admiration, but I only know what I know, and I try to just convey that knowledge as best possible.
Very humble. We're going to get started, though, and dig into what you know that you know. So, Paul, we're going to jump right into it. Obviously, there's been a lot of changes in the city of Detroit over the last several years, and one of the things I know you encounter on a routine basis is that perhaps people's perception of investing in the city might be different than it was 5 years ago, a year ago. Do you have any advice for people who want to invest in the city that might be coming, that aren't from this area, but coming from out of state, out of the country? What would you tell them today?
Well, first off, the investment interest in the city of Detroit has, obviously grown exponentially over the last 5 years. Since 2011, pricing has only gone up in the city. And the first thing new investors that I encounter when they come here to start looking at properties is that they're surprised, at the rise in real estate values, in just a short number of years. I think what I tell any investor is obviously get smart on any market you invest in. Get the right support personnel and person to assist you on market knowledge and gaining that market knowledge so you can invest wisely. The one thing I can tell folks that are surprised about the increase in prices is that the one thing we have seen is that risk has greatly compressed. The folks that invest in the city of Detroit right now, when they do turn their product, they do put good capital improvements into their newly acquired real estate, they are able to find tenancy, whether that be retail, multifamily, office. There really is true market demand in all aspects, and I think that's the most significant change, is that while pricing has gone up, the investment risk has gone down. And I think that's an overall positive for any investor, whether they be individual or institutional, at looking at real estate within the city.
It's a very good point. And I remember now, going back about 10 years ago, we would look at office buildings down in the city that we might be able to buy for $10 a square foot or less, maybe Class B or C buildings. But the question was, could you sell it at the end and make your money out of it? Where I think today, the dollar per square foot has gone up, as you said, exponentially, but there's a feeling and a belief that that property will only increase in value as you own it.
Well, it's not just a feeling. There's real tangible absorption stats, on the office vacancy, and you did point out a key change. We used to see buildings sell for $10 a square foot, and people would think, how could you lose money at that? Well, when we were at an occupancy level of 70% or 75% in the CBD, and rental rates were anywhere from $12 to $15 a square foot, there was some risk with that. And what we've seen, though, is that there's been real absorption on the office side. The rental rates have increased dramatically, and the occupancy rates have gone up as well. So we've compressed our vacancy rate to where people are really thinking about building new construction because we're running out of office space, and that's a good problem. So our rental rate still, in the low 20s per square foot for, Class A product is, below the rest of the country, so it's still a value, and there's a little gap there for new construction, but that gap is getting bridged, very quickly.
So if people are coming in from New York and Chicago trying to rent space, they've got a heck of a bargain on their hands, don't they still?
They do.
Even at these rates.
They do. And you can still buy buildings, at a reasonable per square foot price. You're still buying below replacement cost. Some of these may require some significant deferred maintenance or capital upgrades, but, largely you still can beat the market, by buying, at a good price. And like I said before, the risk has been compressed in the fact that there's tenancy out there for your value add.
Great, thank you. Paul, these days you spend a lot of your time focused on being a tenant rep advisor. It's a bit of a segue from where you were several years back, although you handle a variety of business in the city of Detroit at all aspects. But talk to me about why the transition more to a tenant rep role.
Well, that transition kind of happened organically. I think, we started getting more emails and phone calls from tenants having difficulty finding the right office space in and near the Campus Martius area. I mean, there's a strong desire from tenants, either in the suburbs or in Ann Arbor that are looking to have a satellite office or even do a full-on move to the CBD, and there's a desire to be near the excitement, if you will, and Campus Martius is kind of ground zero for that excitement. And most of those buildings surrounding the park there are 100% occupied or near that. There are a few spaces there, but each tenant has their own unique requirements. And finding a building that can satisfy their unique requirements, their parking requirements as it may be for their tenancy, we've been able to really help a lot of folks out in finding the right fit for them. And there is no one building that is the right fit for any tenant. You really have to look at everything the CBD has to offer. The space is drying up, as we've said earlier, and it's becoming more challenging. So there are a number of landlords there that have gotten creative, as far as how they can structure the lease length with the tenant improvements that these new tenants coming into the CBD want. We're seeing a lot of these tenants wanting more flexible office environments, so they can actually fit more people per 1,000 square feet than what we would consider the old office framework. And that also, in turn, while it's more efficient, it's creating a greater parking demand. And right now, we while we don't have autonomous vehicles, they're still on the horizon. There's still a need to park vehicles somewhere, and finding parking solutions along with the office solution has become one and the same. And we've been able to offer some creative options for some tenants. When you're working with a 6,000 or 7,000 square foot office tenant, and they may be backfilling that office with 20 to 30 folks, some of those folks are going to live in the city. They're going to live in some of these creative neighborhoods that have really flourished in downtown Detroit, and they're going to be nearby. And in those instances, we've helped them look at options like doing ride share reimbursement. While it may not work for all 30 of their employees, if they can get 7 or 8 of those employees under a rideshare program where there's a reimbursement for that and they live nearby, it's a lower cost than, a $200 a month parking space. So in these instances, we try to match our tenants up with kind of the problems that they're facing with some solutions. And it's really come very easy for us, and we've really found our stride in the fact that, it's not easy finding your right fit just by picking up the phone and calling one landlord. You really have to look at a number of spaces. We have familiarity with most of the buildings downtown, and we can easily point tenants and show them spaces that they never would have thought of. And this has really just organically and more naturally become our focus, just through the natural market demand, and our expertise in knowing the market.
Oh, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And obviously, tailoring each deal to the needs of the tenant. But I think more important than just tailoring that to them, it's, again, like investors coming to the city. Tenants need to be well educated before they start their venture into Detroit. They need to know what their parking needs are going to be. The costs for that have obviously grown exponentially.
I would say 80%, at least 80% of the tenants that we get a call from looking for space, they have one building in mind already, and they want to know about that building. And what they largely find out is that maybe that building isn't the right fit for them. We're able to give them the knowledge of what's kind of in and around there, or what's happening with that building, what the co-tenancy might be like, what the negotiating with the landlord may be like. And we try to listen to what their goals are, and say, well, maybe this is an option. And sometimes we may come back to that original building that they looked at, but we want to make sure that they see a lot of different options, and that they really do find the right fit. And we know from doing several rep assignments that there's numerous decision makers that go involved in finding a new office location, and we'll maybe do an initial tour with the lead person on that office search, and then we'll have to come back through with the larger group of 4 or 5, even 7 folks we've had at times to view office spaces. And it's interesting the varied feedback we get from each of those decision makers. And it's very important to have, even in a limited market, we are running out of office space downtown. There are spaces down there, don't get me wrong, but the number of options are becoming less and less. So we do still try to show them a wide variety of options. Some folks may be looking for a timber loft office space that's very creative. We can find that for you right now. Some may be looking for the more traditional Class A, high finish, office that's been more traditional in the past. Or they might be looking for the open ceiling, exposed ductwork, polished concrete floor look. And we can show them all those kind of options, and we can talk to them also about the expenses that go into those kind of build outs and those flexible work environments. I think a lot of folks, one of the first misconceptions they get is that if they go with a less structured office that doesn't have a ceiling and doesn't have a whole lot of set offices, that those should be cheaper on the build out side. Well, in fact, those can be more expensive, largely because you're having to do things like, hard pipe your HVAC and run different types of lighting and, exposed electrical conduit and things like that. Those generally translate into increased, construction costs, really. And we help guide them on, understanding that cost benefit and how we can work that into the tenant deal. And, it's surprising, what the... where the tenant usually ends up. We never know offhand when we first get that initial call where the deal will end, but at the end of the day, everybody's very happy that we found the right fit, we found the right build out style, and the fit for their office work environment. And it's been a great process. It's been a great growing process, and it's great to see the change in the tenants that are coming downtown and the types of build outs and the creativity that they're looking for. It's very positive for the city.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's great to see the city thrive in a way that I've never seen in my lifetime, which it's exciting. And when you tour people in the city of Detroit nowadays, we have a lot of clients that come from our other markets, out of state, out of the country, and they come here and there's an actual, you used to go on property tours and there was no enthusiasm, I've got to find a place to work, I got to put my employees somewhere. But you take them through downtown these days, or midtown, or somewhere that's a cool area that, is growth. There's enthusiasm in the tours. There's a general sense of excitement, which I've never seen in real estate before, so it's kind of fun to see not only the city come back, but the joy and enthusiasm we have that I think permeates throughout our state nowadays.
Well, I can't agree more. I can't tell you the number of tours where we've been on, and we're going to see 4 or 5 different spaces that day, and we're doing a walking tour. We're going within the CBD, and the number of questions I get from the folks on that tour about buildings we're not looking at, and you just tell us about that building, what's happening over there, and they're just excited to know about. Not just where they're going to land in their tenancy, but where other tenants are landing and who's coming in. There is this, you see it a lot in retail that there's co-tenancy where the retailers work together. But on the office side, we're seeing it too, where there's excitement from the tenants to be next door to somebody that they know, or somebody that they know in the market that's a competitor. They want to know where their competitors at and what their space is like. There's these kind of elbow nudges, like, what kind of build out did they do in there? So and that's great, and we love seeing that. It is very exciting, like you said, and it is far different than 5 years ago. And there is real excitement in the CBD. in the financial district in particular, and we couldn't be happier.
That's great. All right, Paul. So now I built you up in the beginning of this as the king of Detroit. So for all of our listeners who have not ventured downtown, midtown, to find the cool places to hang out and spend time, I'm going to ask you the hard questions now. So the best restaurant in the city of Detroit, what is that? What's your go-to, Paul?
That's a really tough question now. I mean, the culinary scene in Detroit has just it's changed so rapidly over the last few years. There's always a new restaurant opening up here, and I haven't been to them all. I'm going to be honest with you, and that's saying something, because at some point, there wasn't a restaurant I hadn't been to in the city of Detroit. So, but the craft movement has been so prolific and well done in the city. The young people there and their passion to kind of reinvent, our culinary scene has been great. There's a few restaurants that I go to regularly, so, and I would have to say, I'm a big fan of Selden Standard. It's a fantastic restaurant. They do just a tremendous job there. I love Chartreuse.
Nice.
That is a great restaurant. And I love the little spots in Corktown, and there's so many of them there. Whether it's La Petite Zinc, for a crepe, or a little Sunday brunch in the summer out on their patio, or you're heading over to Slows for barbecue. Everybody loves that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
There's just so much. But if I was gonna say what's my favorite restaurant in the city right now, I'd probably have to say Chartreuse.
Chartreuse is number one for you. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're right, though. It's amazing how it's turned into a culinary city with Michelin-rated chefs that are down in the city of Detroit. And you can work as hard as you can to get to every single one of them, but it's not easy like it used to be. There are so many things popping up every day. And we had the good fortune at our 40th anniversary last year, we had Chef Jared Bobkin, a staple of the city of Detroit, who was one of the runners-up on Hell's Kitchen, and is one of the young lead chefs in the city, came and made a fantastic appetizer for us at our 40th anniversary. So we try to make it out to his club every chance we get, but it's just amazing how many things there are, how many places to eat.
I think we're only going to see more of it, Andy. I think, we're going to see more of our young chefs, in the national spotlight, and it's great for the city. It really is. It's the right publicity.
All right, so we've hit the restaurant now. Bar scene, is there a great bar you like to go to?
I when I go to the city, I want something different. So, my go-to spot is really to sit at the bar at Sugar House, not at a table, at the
nice.
bar. You want to talk to the bartenders, you want to see them, watch them make their drinks, and it's the right atmosphere. It's a small place, and they make a fantastic drink. There's no question. Dave Kowatowski's done a great job there, and glad he's a fellow Michigan grad and doing well in the city, and I think he's on to his third bar and restaurant now, so with bad luck. So good luck to him there. So
yeah.
Really. So
it's a tough business to be. Any restaurant, bars, tough business. I think as a guy, I always want to open one of those. That's my dream job, is I'll open a restaurant or a bar, but it's a very grueling and difficult business. It's great to see, though, all the people coming back or staying in state to open these up and really create the next culinary world in our own city.
Absolutely.
All right, now the last one. So you're a deal maker. You do, I don't know, dozens, hundreds of deals a year. Where is the go-to place? Where are you closing deals? Where's the real estate community downtown?
Where's the community hanging out? So it's surprisingly, it's still a small market for the folks down there doing deals. There's a handful of us. We all know each other. It's a great little community. The brokers are usually very supportive of each other, and I don't know if there's one spot that there's a go-to spot for that. So certainly it seems to always be because it's moving so fast. You have time for coffee, and you're on Campus Martius. So
That's
you
true.
know, you're either at Roasting Plant or you're at Starbucks, or you shoot up to Midtown to Great Lakes for a great cup of coffee. If you were to ask me where you're going to meet me, you'd probably meet me at Astro Coffee in Corktown. That's where I'd be at.
Okay,
So.
that's good to know. That's where the deals are getting done, folks. So if you're listening, you want to get a deal done, that's where Paul Debono is, Astro Coffee in Corktown. Now, I know in the suburbs, business people get deals done every day at Baco. That's the go-to place. Our very own Michael Khalil sits in court and holds court there routinely. But in the city, Astro Coffee is what it sounds like. Paul, I really appreciate your time today. There's going to be a lot of people, after hearing your knowledge of the city, listening to what you do down there, who want to get a hold of you, make sure that they get assistance, or if they have questions that they just need a quick answer to. I know you're always great with that. How do they get a hold of you, Paul? What's your email, your phone number? What's the best way?
Oh, the best way is either a quick email or a phone call. You know, I'm happy to give out my mobile number. I'm always available, 248-470-3015, or just shoot me a quick email to debono@farbman.com. That's DEBONO @farbman, FARBMAN.com.
Very helpful. Thank you for your time today. To our listeners out there, this has been another episode of Real Estate of Mind with Andy Gutman and Paul Debono. Join us next time for another wonderful edition of Real Estate of Mind, a Farbman Group podcast.